Hey folks, welcome to our fully online 3000 course. I'm your instructor, Michelle St. George, and this is our syllabus overview. For English 3000, there's quite a few pieces that you need to be aware of. So it might be a bit tedious as we're going through the syllabus, but I encourage you to stick with it, and if you need to take pauses, feel welcome to and come back. So here is our syllabus, and I strongly encourage you to have a printed copy of this, not only for the portfolio requirements, but also for the assignment breakdown. Okay, so we'll start with a few housekeeping pieces. So my office is located in the music building, room 2599. However, for office hours, you can meet me in my office, or you can meet me online via Skype. And I'll talk about Skype in just a bit, but just know there is a option to meet with me live, but not actually in my office if you cannot make it to campus. My email is also here. I'm pretty good at checking my email. If you send me a message after 6 p.m., 7 p.m., I probably won't respond to it until the next day, but I usually respond to emails within 24 hours. Okay, so required texts, there's only one book required for our course, and that's the book They Say, I Say, and we'll be using the 3rd edition without readings. So there's a longer edition that contains some readings at the end. You do not need that. Instead, you just need the slim version, which is the third edition. Other required materials, for those of you who got my email the other day, this course does require a special browser called Respondus Lockdown Browser. And essentially what this is for your online, we call them in-class essays, but for those timed essays, you'll be using Respondus, and it will lock down your computer so that you can't look up sources, so that you can't, take snapshots of what's on the screen, and instead it sort of forces you to just pay attention to your writing, since you will not be able to use sources in those timed essays. So please don't put off downloading Respondus. We have Cal State East Bay has a free download for it, and I have the link right there. It's a pretty easy process, and I'll be talking about how we'll use Respondus in just a moment. Okay, so our course description, as you likely know, the purpose of English 3000 is to offer students regular practice in writing, right? Necessary for the successful performance for the writing skills test or for the university writing skills requirement, right? So that's probably why most of you are in this class, is to meet the UWSR, the UWSR. So during our course, we're going to be putting together a portfolio of writing, right? So all of the essays that you produce, all of the drafts that you are developing, all of the in-class essays, really the timed essays, will be put together at the end of the course in a portfolio, and that will actually be evaluated by a committee of university faculty. So that final portfolio, I sort of check off, but I'm not the reader for it. Instead, a committee of other faculty, there's usually 2 or 3 readers who read the portfolio, they will be assessing that final portfolio. So be very diligent about keeping the work that you're doing. Students who, on that portfolio, receive a clear competence, or what I call a CC, clear competence, have met the UWSR requirement if they've also passed my course. However, you can pass my course and not receive a clear competence on the portfolio. So just be mindful of that just because you pass the course does not mean you're necessarily going to pass the portfolio. Okay, so in this section of English 3000, you'll notice that a lot of the readings and writings that we engage will have something to do with the environment or environmental justice. That's going to be our overarching theme, and I hope that this is going to provide you, a supportive context that will help you amplify your writing abilities. That way you're not continually having to shift topics, but rather are thinking about this one theme throughout the course. Okay, so here are our course objectives. And something to be aware of is these course objectives are the same objectives as the UWSR, the University Writing Skills Requirement. So literally, if you can meet these objectives, you'll be meeting the objectives of the University Writing Skills Requirement. So I'm not going to read through those, but at this point, you might pause and take a second to look through those objectives. Okay. So with regard to the course requirements, it's pretty straightforward. So you're going to write over the quarter 3 in-class essays, and that's going to be 25% of your overall grade, right? Then you'll have 2 out-of-class essays, sort of your 2 major essays, and those are worth 40% of your grade. And kind of folded into that grade are also the drafts. So you can't just turn in one final copy, not do any of the drafts and get credit. Instead, you will need to do multiple drafts, which I'll talk about in just a bit. Okay, at the very end of the class, you'll be doing a reflective essay. This is the first thing the portfolio committee sees. It's the first piece in your portfolio, right? Then you'll obviously be creating a final portfolio worth 10% of your grade. And there's also a participation component of this class, which I'll be talking about in just a minute. What does participation mean in an online course? Okay. And just, to note, you need to complete all of the work in this course in order to get credit for the course. As you can tell, each piece is high stakes. So there's, if you miss an essay, there's not a lot of room for still passing the course. Okay, so the final grade breakdown, this is a credit, no credit class. So you'll either pass or you won't, so to speak. Okay, confidentiality. Your grades are going to be posted under My Grades in in Blackboard, so you'll be able to check how you're doing throughout the quarter. I cannot actually email grades to you, so if you wanted quick access to your grades, I strongly encourage you to look at the Blackboard My Grades rather than asking me via email, just because I can't disclose official grades via email. Okay. So attendance, lateness, and participation. So this is to that point of what does that mean in an online class, right? So you don't really attend class at a particular time in an online setting. However, I still expect participation, which means that each week, I expect you to do the weekly tasks. So if you go on Blackboard, you'll see that there's a week-by-week breakdown, little folders. You need to be doing the work within those folders, really, in order to pass the class. So I expect you to be diligent about that, and that each week you are looking at the weekly folder, you are completing the weekly folder, and you are moving on to the next one. Okay. If I see you not showing up, so to speak, so if I can see that you're not accessing portfolios, you're not visiting my lectures, you're not really engaging the class, well, really that means you're not showing up to class, and that's when you won't get those participation points. Okay, so in-class essays, as I said, you'll be writing 3 throughout the term. Those are all marked. The dates of those are all marked on the course schedule, which we'll look at in just a second. And for each of those essays, you'll have 1 hour and 50 minutes to write and respond to the prompt. And you will have to do that in one sitting. This is the same thing that students in face-to-face classes are asked to do. So they sit, they cannot look up sources, and they write for 1 hour and 50 minutes, right? In an online class, the way that we sort of facilitate, the way we proctor those exams is through the Respondus lockdown browser. So as I mentioned earlier, you can download that for free. The link is right here. You can just click on it and download it. And at any time you're going to do your in-class essay or your timed essay, those 3 of them, you will need to open up Blackboard in the Respondus browser. So instead of going to Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or going to Safari, right? Instead, you'll go to this specific browser. So you'll need to sort of shut everything down, open up this browser, and just use it. Okay? So those are the in-class essays. You'll also have 2 out-of-class essays. Okay, these are going to be about 800 words in length. They're not terribly long, and they will be thesis-driven multi-draft arguments, which means that you'll be typically taking a position or making a claim, and you'll be doing several drafts of the essay. One of those drafts, you'll be meeting with me and getting feedback by me, right? The other draft, you'll be meeting with the SCA, which is the University Writing Tutoring Center. You'll be meeting with one of their tutors and receiving feedback from them. Okay, you need to save all copies of those drafts with my comments on them. Those will go into the portfolio. So it's really important that before you move on or start rewriting, that you save the draft, right? And one final thing, the final essay, the portfolio ready essay, I don't actually comment on that, right? That one you just get credit or no credit for, and then the portfolio committee is the one that reads that. I will be evaluating and commenting the instructor draft. So just be aware of that. When you meet with me for your conference, that draft should be in pretty good shape at that point. Okay, so the reflective essay, that's the last thing you write. And essentially, you'll be asking the question, how are you ready to pass the university writing skills requirement? Reflecting on the course, how have you grown? But that will come much, much later in the course. Okay, so the SCA. So this is a free service for students where students can seek a writing tutor and receive comments on their draft. Okay, a draft of any essay. Now, we have a face-to-face tutoring center in the 2nd floor of the library, which you are welcome to go to. But for those of you who can't get to campus and are working 100% remotely, we also have an OWL, which is an online writing lab. I have the link to the OWL there. Feel welcome to check that out. And then when it comes time for you to submit a draft, you can actually upload your essay straight to that link, and then they'll provide you with feedback. Right, that's pretty cool. So it typically takes 48 hours for them to get back to you, 48 business hours. So please don't wait till the night before to send that. Give them a couple days and give yourself a couple days to receive comments and then actually use those comments. Okay. So here we have the portfolio breakdown, the 18 items that go into that portfolio. You should, after you complete each piece, I would sort of check mark that you've done that because there's 18 pieces to that portfolio. So it's, you have to be diligent here. So don't worry about the table of contents or questionnaire yet. You'll be given that material at the very end of class. But notice you have the reflection, you have Turnitin reports, you have the final drafts, you have two drafts for each major essay, the instructor draft, as well as the tutor draft. And it sort of lists out, I won't go over them all, but it lists out everything that is required for that portfolio. So please be mindful of kind of keeping that work saved. Okay, so the portfolio criteria. So essentially, you can receive 3 scores on your final portfolio from the portfolio team. There's an LC, limited competence, a DC, developing competence, and CC, clear competence. If you receive a limited competence, you're going to have to take this class again. What that means is that your writing is still quite limited. Okay. If you receive a developing competence, it means that your work is developing, right? It's not quite proficient. And you will actually go into a class called English 3003, which is sort of the second part of this course. Finally, there's the clear competence, right? Clear competence, the CC. And if you get a CC on your portfolio, then you're done with the UWSR. You've met the university writing skills requirement, right? So I always make the joke, we're aiming for C's in this class, meaning we're aiming for that CC, that clear competence score. And essentially what that means is that you're a clearly competent writer, that you're proficient, that you know how to communicate your ideas in using the written language. Okay. And again, I make this note that you can pass my course and not get a CC on the portfolio. So just be mindful that it's sort of two separate things. Okay. Turnitin.com. So as you already saw in the portfolio breakdown, you will need to include Turnitin.com originality reports. Don't worry about the reports yet. Essentially, that will come once your essays are due. But on Blackboard, you'll see a Turnitin.com submissions link. Now, it's all done through Blackboard, which is really nice, which means you don't need a Turnitin.com account. Instead, you'll just click on Turnitin, the link in Blackboard, you'll upload your draft, and that's it. Essentially, what Turnitin.com is doing is it's checking your work for similarities to work that's been turned into Turnitin.com or for similarities on online sources. So it's sort of a mechanism to make sure that students aren't just copying other students or other sources' work. And please be mindful that the work that you're doing is your work. Okay, so we are to our last page of the syllabus and are about to get to our course schedule. If you need to take a quick break, I know we've already been I've already been talking for quite a bit, so feel welcome to take a pause if you need to. Okay, so Blackboard is essentially our second classroom, or maybe our first classroom, right? Since we don't actually meet face-to-face. So you really should be familiar with Blackboard and should be completing it, should be looking at it and completing the work on it regularly. Okay, so conferences and Skype, students are required to meet with me twice this quarter, face-to-face, but via Skype, or you can make an appointment to visit me in my office hours. But you must do that twice. And this is where I give you feedback on your drafts. So I can't stress the importance of that enough, because it really is the time for you to ask questions about your draft and for me to give you feedback on your work. Okay. Please make sure, as I've put in red, that you save a copy of that draft, right? And of course, students have the option of meeting me face-to-face, so that no problem if you'd rather come in. But for those of you who are going to use the Skype option, you need to get a Skype account, right? It's totally free. And you need to give me a contact request. So my email is right here. You can just search in the contacts. You can just search for me. And there's a picture of me in a green dress working with a student. Send me that contact request by September 25th, please. And then when it's conference time, you'll sign up for your conference, and then I'll be able to go into Skype, send you a Skype call, and then we'll be chatting face to face. So please make sure to not put that off. Okay, so let's get to these final few pieces. Hey, if you ever have a grievance, please contact me via email or Skype, and we'll try to work out the grievance. If we couldn't work out the grievance, then we'll contact the coordinator of composition, and we can meet with her in order to resolve the grievance. But please make sure to contact me first if there's ever an issue. Okay, plagiarism and CSU East Bay academic honesty. Guys, please make sure to distinguish clearly between your words and the words of others, right? You can do this through quotation marks, you can do this through citations, right? That simple, according to so-and-so, or as so-and-so suggests, that makes all the difference in the world. So whenever you're presenting the work of another person, please make sure that you make it clear to the reader that that is a different person. That person is not you. Okay. If you're ever considering engaging in academic dishonesty, whether that's cheating, whether that's purchasing someone else's work, going to one of those paper mills, please contact me first so that we can talk through the situation. Because cheating is not going to really solve the problem. So I would much rather you contact me first and us try to work out the issue. Okay. Hey, if you do participate in academic dishonesty, then I do have to do a report, an academic dishonesty incident report, which I do file with Academic Affairs Office. So please make sure that you're not doing that. Just clearly cite where you're, if you're borrowing from someone, make sure that you're acknowledging that you're doing so. Okay. Hey, students with disabilities, if you have a documented disability and need academic accommodations, please contact me as soon as possible so that we can make arrangements to meet your accommodations. Okay. And finally, etiquette or netiquette, right? You'll be doing a lot of writing this term, right? So please be mindful and diligent about your work, right? Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. Please don't waste your peers' time by writing frivolously. I really encourage you to care about your work this quarter, proofread it, think about your audience, do your best work. Okay, guys, that is the actual syllabus portion. And let's go ahead and look at the course schedule, okay? So the entire quarter is sort of laid out for you week by week already. And if you've already been looking at Blackboard, you'll see that the weekly folders are already up. So I want to talk about a few things. I won't go through the whole thing, but a few things that you will need to know. So each week, except the first week because it's such a short week, it's broken into 2 days, right? So for example, week 1 is broken into day 2 and day 3, right? And on the course schedule, you'll see that the readings are already assigned and what's due that day is already assigned. So for example, on day 2, you will need to read the University Writing Skills Requirement rubric. That's already up online, right? You will also need to watch Majora Carter's TED Talk, Greening the Ghetto. The link to that is already online. On top of that, you need to complete the first timed essay using Respondus Lockdown Browser, right? So notice sort of all the pieces are already laid out for you. The conference days are already marked. The days where the final portfolio ready copy of major essays are due, those are all marked. So I encourage you to spend, take some time on your own here to look through the course schedule just to see when those major dates are. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our Blackboard page. So if you just Google csueastbay.edu and click on Blackboard, you can then use your net ID and password to log in. and then you can go to courses. Then I have a lot of courses, so we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and here is our class. Okay, so I want to just point you to two things. One is the turnitin.com submissions link. That's where you can upload all of your final essays, right? Not the drafts, just the final ones. And then the weekly folders, right? So here we have week 0, which is this week. And you'll notice all of the items. So syllabus overview, which you're already watching, rhetorical situation, lecture and activity, and then Respondus lockdown browser information, which is sort of the link and then how you're going to use that, which I've already explained. So these are all the items to complete before 8 p.m. on September 24th. If you go to next week, week 1, you'll notice there's 2 days. I try to break it up into manageable chunks. So day 2, you'll complete by September 29th. If you click on that, you'll see the items that are due for that day. So it should be pretty straightforward. Okay, guys, so if you have follow-up questions, please look through the syllabus a little bit more carefully to see if I already answered them. If not, you're always welcome to send me an email, and I will try to get back to you in a very timely manner. So welcome to our class, and I will see you at our first conferences.